Councilman John Sharkey, former Mayor Orvine, the man Carpenter. Former Mayor Pro Tem Jim Daniels. Master Chief Daniels, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam veteran. And thank you for your service, Jim, and thank you for your son's service. Today, I'd also like to recognize the 101st birthday of Penny Walcott.
All right.
Penny worked with the Men's Follies that they used to have, where we'll have some pictures up of that. The Harbor Days events they used to have here in the city, and Tom and my favorite event, the beauty pageant. So today we're here to recognize Elaine Garber. And I've served with Elaine Garber when it was Dorothy Ramirez, Helen Brandt, Elaine Garber, and Joe Morris. Elaine, had it not been for Elaine, and I can attest to this because I pulled down everything out of the file cabinets and all the pictures that were all over. And Carmen Nichols can tell you, she came in here one day, she said, Larry, what is going on? Because I had like 27 lemon crates filled where I was breaking things up and sorting and putting them into the files, and it just looked, it was but had it not been for Elaine, we would not have many of the items that we have here in the museum. All the signed documents, original signed documents, Elaine had. Most all of the real old pictures, Elaine gathered. And the museum and the city really can't thank you enough, because out of everyone, you were the key for making sure that history was not lost for the city of Port Hueneme. And thank you. That comes from the bottom of the heart. So today, we also have Traver Bard Newton here. And Traver's going to come up and say a few things about Elaine before we get started. Or when we get started. And then after Elaine, we're going to have Lydia Stevenson, who is Elaine's daughter, do a PowerPoint presentation on her mother. And do you want to come up here, Traver?
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
And we named the room that used to be the old chamber office. We're going to call it the Bard Room. The Bards are giving us the 1870 roll top desk of Thomas Bard's, which we're going to be bringing over here. Plus, they have the old oak wooden chair that he used to sit in, and that would have been before Hueneme had really was just being established, and he was out there looking for oil. And this was his desk. So that'll be here in the next couple months. So now I'm going to turn it over to Traver to say a few things.
Good morning. It's wonderful to see Elaine. She was on the long-term board member of the Friends of the Bard House. Pardon is giving me directions, and I always look forward to seeing her because of her enthusiasm and warmth. And as Larry said, her knowledge of the region. When I spoke with her this morning, I sent my mother's regrets because she's an old friend. She's 99 and wasn't up to the trip this morning, but she's the eldest child of Richard Bard and grew up across the street in what's now called Quarters A. But we heard Elaine, I think it was probably around the late 90s, 98, and she gave a wonderful talk. My mother was there, and her brother, Dick Richard Jr., was no longer living, and I was there. And it was her collection of historical photos of Hueneme, and I wish she had put it together in a book, because so many of the stories are its oral history. But I also wanted to point out, I brought a copy of the Ventura County Historical Society Quarterly from 1967. And if anybody wants to see it, I'll have it available. But on the board of directors, there's Elaine. So she gave not only to Hueneme, but to Ventura County in general. And it publishes images of Chumash fish hooks and weights that came from the collection of Cephas Bar, Thomas's brother, who, when he died, he gave his collection to the people of Ventura County and said, please start a museum. So Elaine helped make this possible. So she gave in so many ways, and it's wonderful to see her again. Thank you, Elaine.
Hold on 1 second. This is a plaque where we start people making a difference. That's just people like you and I, and Tom and John and Master Chief, just common ordinary people. Our first one was Dorothy Ramirez. Our second one was Beverly Kelly. And we've added Elaine K. Garber for 2016. This is what the plaque looks like, and it becomes a permanent part of the museum where people will look at it and view it. So now I'm going to turn it over to her daughter to do the PowerPoint presentation. This is Lydia Stevenson.
Thanks so much. Our family is so honored to be here today. In fact, we have relatives that have traveled in besides my family from Utah. My daughter, Lisa, my son Marcus, my husband Val, our grandson who will probably soon be running all over the place, Carter, which is Elaine's great-grandson, my brother David, Brandon, David's son, Marissa, Brandon's mom, Andy, we have a very blended family, Andy, Marissa's husband, Janice, Elaine's niece, and her darling husband David, and then Elaine's grandniece, I guess, Elaine's, and a great grandniece, and I think there's more coming in just a few minutes, and it has just been, it's just so, we're just so proud of her. Growing up in the family of the Garbers, though, in Port Hueneme, I don't know about David, but it was always so busy, I had to piece together some things to do this presentation, because there's so much, and not just with the Historical Society. So we put together this little presentation, and so John is my little helper since I don't have a clicker up here. And so John, if you will click. This is just a sampling of Elaine's contributions. So we could pretty much just end this right now and say, here you go. But Elaine, thank goodness, saved some things. The house, some things were not kept up in the home, so some things were destroyed. But these are some clippings that I found, or some articles, and in fact, before you leave, there is a scrapbook back there on that table with some newspaper clippings that I found, and you'll see some things in here. But these are just a sampling of all the things that she did in the past 50, 60 years, which is just incredible when you think about it. But why did she come to Hueneme? She wasn't born here. Because none of this would have happened if it hadn't been for a very handsome young man who met a very beautiful, vivacious, brunette, green-eyed girl and happened to bring her to Port Hueneme on their way to Alaska to live. And that is the only reason why they are here in Port Hueneme. We have to go back a little bit because you need to understand where Elaine and Dwayne, her beloved husband, came from in order to understand why she did so much for the town. So Dwayne is there on the horse. Dwayne Garber grew up in Hicks, Wisconsin, very conservative family. I'm not quite sure what David remembers, but I remember very strict. We would go back every summer to Wisconsin, Minneapolis, which is where Elaine was born, and very strict family. Go ahead. And Dwayne had a family of another brother and two sisters. Dwayne went ahead and in high school, quit high school, joined the Navy. Actually didn't have a high school diploma, but he's proud to say he had a bachelor's degree and 2 years into his master's degree. and joined the Navy, just hit the bottom part of World War II, go ahead. And very handsome, tall, 6 foot, go ahead. And keep going. And grew into very, very, very handsome young man. One more, I think. This is where, we don't have the clicker here, so I'm gonna have to keep hinting on this one. So he was in Wisconsin, he traveled the western part of the United States, he was stationed in Tennessee, again, piecemealing this sort of things from some things that Mom kept. Next slide. So then you have Elaine. This is Ida. Ida grew up in a loving family of 2 different families. So there was a widow and a widower. Each widow and widower had, I believe, 8 or 9 siblings each. They came together, and Ida was the product of that. When Ida was a small child, she had the measles and lost her hearing. Go ahead. She was married once to Mr. Cameron. In fact, Janice's mother was the product, Doris was the product of that marriage. That marriage did not take. She met Mr. Wilbur Lanahan. We don't know much about Mr. Lanahan, but he disappeared when Ida had Elaine. So there's Doris, Wilbur Jr., my mother is the medium one, and then Betty and their dog, I don't remember their dog's name, Shelly or something like that. But Ida, who is deaf, when she was 16 years old, she quit school because the teacher, she didn't understand them. So she learned how to sew. She actually went to South Dakota, and I pieced this through different things that I found, and Janice has read some of these letters too. She learned how to sew. She actually opened her own sewing shop right before her 19th birthday. Made her own living. For 10 years she owned this shop. So now she's in her second marriage, and Wilbur disappears when she is pregnant with Betty, little Betty. This is the love of her life, disappears. We find out later he has some illness. And she searches and searches for him and has him legally declared dead after 7 years. So here's Ida raising these 4 children. Family is everything to Ida. Everything. There's again, Ida is the product of 2 big families. So they are filled with loving families from both sides, but they don't get to see them a lot. But family is everything, and they are a very, very close-knit family. So everything. Elaine is firm on family beliefs. They need to stick together. And Ida makes sure that that happens. She wants to make sure that this family is always intact and always together. So again, Dwayne comes from a very strict family, and then you have Ida's family. Go ahead. Well, going through, there's Elaine and her little sister, Betty. They're having a great time. And as Elaine grows, she becomes a young lady. She's about 8th grade here, and she goes through Lutheran school. She's the only one that goes through the Lutheran school, because if you go to church, then you get free schooling. She actually skips a grade, and here's her beautiful family. There's Doris. This is Janice's mom, and there is Wilbur Jr. that we call Bill, and there is beautiful Elaine at the age of 16, and Ida, and there's Betty. Elaine graduates at the age of 16. She's an independent little thing. She is brunette, green-eyed, and gorgeous. And she gets prettier and prettier. Look at that. She is independent. She goes to Chicago. She works as a dental assistant. She is a clerk typist. She goes to New York. She has a phenomenal life. She's all over the place. She has a great time. Now, I know Mom's told me she was engaged at least twice. Probably 3 times. She has lots of boyfriends. I found quite a few pictures that she kept. And I know one of them was a gentleman named Guy. Now, Guy was not my dad's name, but there's a gentleman named Guy. Found some of those, and somewhere in that time frame, she decides to go back to school. So she's going to the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, and Dad was going there at the same time. Well, what's interesting is I found this postcard actually just about 2 weeks ago, buried amongst Mom's things. Kind of a funny little postcard, people riding jackrabbits in South Dakota.
Oh, okay.
It's postmarked June 17th. What's interesting about this is we've always known that Mom met Dad on her birthday, 25th birthday, 1952. Dad's 2 years younger. So 25th birthday, so Dad's 23, she's 25, and she's always said that her friend knew that Mom would like Dad. Okay, I just assumed it was in Minneapolis. Reading the postcard, it's a postcard to Elaine from Dwayne saying, I hope you and Guy enjoyed yourselves, and you probably should have been riding jackrabbits instead of horses. I hope to see you again. And it's postmarked to where she was working at the May Company. So somewhere she was probably still going out with Guy. But Daddy's writing to her. Either way, 3 months and 1 day later, they get married. They decide, Minneapolis and Minnesota has a 5-day waiting period. Dad was born January 25th, Mom is May 25th. They wanted to get married August 25th. They couldn't because of the 5-day waiting period. They grab both moms and they go down to Iowa, to Northwood, Iowa, because they only had a 3-day waiting period. And they get married on August the 26th. 3 months and 1 day later. And Lisa, I didn't want you to see this because Lisa is actually, my daughter was wearing, tried on this wedding dress last year. So this is the dress that Grandma made. So my grandmother either had this already or quickly made this, and our grandmother was a beautiful seamstress. So what happens then is they go ahead, and Elaine still had 2 years to finish up, so Dwayne went ahead and did 2 more years of graduate study work in mechanical engineering, and they decide during their summertime they go to Alaska, and they work for civil service. They're doing some things in Alaska, and they really love Alaska. And they're like, okay, maybe we're going to go ahead and go back there. And they graduate. And so Elaine has her bachelor's degree in teaching. Elaine has his bachelor's in engineering and some graduate things. And they're going to go to Alaska. But they decided, well, let's go ahead and explore the world. They go to New York, they do that. And they say, well, let's go ahead. Dwayne was in the Navy. He had been in Port Hueneme, Point Magoo. And our uncle had been a Seabee. So he had been in Port Hueneme. In fact, the last time home last year, I actually donated some things from Uncle Bill to the Port Hueneme Museum. His yearbook, I have a patch, there were some other things that we had donated to the Port Hueneme Museum. So they head to Port Hueneme and they love it. So they say, you know what, we are going to stay in Port Hueneme. But their first place was this little house that's 5th Street in Oxnard, and they have a little cat there. So this would have been in 1956. Dwayne quickly finds a job at USC at the wind tunnel. So the wind tunnels were quite big there at the time, and he worked there until there was no more wind tunnel. Elaine goes to work at Wilcox Junior High, 7th and 8th grade. And in fact, I was hoping Dolores was here. Dolores, I can't remember her maiden name, Dolores Gross was one of her students, and to this day, so 50-something years later, she's still a dear friend. She was at our house a year ago visiting, and she actually lives in Camarillo, but they have remained friends. Education has always been important to Elaine. Always. So they moved to Port Hueneme, 7th Street, 1224 North 7th Street, 93041. We have that memorized. Elaine and Dwayne get this house in 1956, so they weren't in the apartment quite yet. They like the modular furniture. They're really enjoying it. They're getting along. They're not active yet in anything. Mom is still teaching. What comes along? Me. So Mom no longer wants to work. She wants to stay home. Grandma Lenihan comes on out, and they have our lovely cat there. Terran's so cool. Terran was born in the closet, lived with us until he was passing. So when this comes along, Mom wants to be a stay-at-home mom, but passionate for education. Very, very passionate. She wants to do something. Again, she's traveled all over the place. For her to sit at home, that's not Elaine. That's not going to happen. So relatives start visiting. We're in Southern California, right? Everybody wants to start visiting. Mom, great believer in family. Again, that's how she grew up. This is Dwayne's sister and her husband and their 2 kids. They're out of work. They come to stay with us for a little while. That's fine. Come on in. let's visit for a little while, come stay. Mom decides to go ahead and run for the school board. She loses. This is 1961. She lost. However, within weeks, somebody who was already on the school board decided he didn't have the time. So the school board and the district and the county decide, well, we're going to go ahead and put you in because there's only 2 years left in that term. So she is put on within weeks. So this is dated July 16th of 1959. So I'm only 6 months old, 7 months old. So she's put on the school board for 2 years. She never lost an election since. 50 years later. Never lost until her retirement. Well, that's not enough for Elaine and Dwayne. So she keeps going. Janice comes to live with us, which is wonderful. Mom needs a helper, and that was fun. So there's Janice and with me. I wish I still had that skin. And Mom and Dad both get busy. Now this actually to me is very funny. So she's pregnant with David in this one. So she joins the garden club. They both do. Mom does not have a green thumb on anywhere, right? My dad did. So they're co-chairs on this one. Again, this is funny. I found lots of clippings that they're part of the garden club in the beginning. So I'm sure it was my dad. Because Mom could kill a weed. I mean, it's just, I didn't get that from her. My daughter doesn't have that either. It's just not in our nature. But this was a Hawaiian theme, and I'm pretty sure it's because she was wearing a muumuu, because she was expecting. I mean, why not, right? That's what you need to do. So they start getting involved in the garden club. And as time goes by, she's pregnant with David in this one. If anybody recognizes, we have E.O. Green right there, turning over the soil. We have Wilcox is in this one. Templeman is in this picture. And it just keeps going on. Now we have more relatives coming. This is my father's aunt, Luella. And then during this time, my father's aunt, Sadie, has some mental issues. And not my father does not get granted guardianship, but my mother is granted guardianship of Aunt Sadie. And she is at what is now the Channel Islands, right? The University of Channel Islands? When it used to be yes. So again, we have the paperwork my mother is. So my mother's busy. She's got 2 little ones. Relatives are coming and going, and she's granted guardianship. Again, family's very, very important to her. Doesn't matter if it's her direct relatives or dad's relatives. Mom is busy with AAUW, which she's proudly been a member of, lifetime member. And Janice is a lifetime member. I'm a lifetime member. And she drags us wherever she goes. Here she is with David. And this is something to do with the Navy. I'm not quite sure what was going on, who knows, but she was busy doing something. And here is Dwayne and Elaine, and you see Recruiter there in the background. And this was a Heart Association. So this involved in many, many things in the city. So this is, again, early 60s. And, oh, there's us. Now, my Grandma Garber comes to live with us. And this would have been 63, I think, David, probably somewhere in there. So Mom's really busy. 62. So Grandma Garber comes to live, yeah, you probably know. Oh, is this when Janice was with us too? When did you come live with us?
She was with me also, yeah.
Okay. 64. So Janice comes back and lives with us again and meets David. So is he also responsible for wedding bells? You guys have been married now how many years? 48 years. All in the family. So Grandma Garber comes to live with us and lives with us until she passes actually in our home. But during this time, go ahead. Mom makes sure, as a family, we also enjoy each other. So we go to Canada. We always go back to Minneapolis every single summer. So it's community, it's family, it's enjoying trips together. Always in parades, Harbor Days, or this was the school board during this time. Always been the best, always. She's on the grand jury, 1964 grand jury, and on the grand jury she was the secretary of that. Always parties at the house. We had the neighborhood. Dad actually made us a playhouse in the back that had the real door, the real windows, everything. We were always the place for the parties. And of course, we had Grandma Garber there at the time too. Jan's coming and going, but she was dating David, so she wasn't paying attention to us. During this time, and this is really where the Historical Society, she's always been interested in the Historical Society. This is a 3-page spread, and this is when she was trying to get a building donated. And it's fascinating about trying to get a building donated, and she got the building, but then it was supposed to get moved. I have the scrapbook back there if you want to read it. It's really interesting on what she was trying to do. But she'd only been in the city for 6 years, and she was already trying to move buildings. So, Historical Society again. What else did I have? And this was planting trees, holly trees. I was trying to read the squig. I'm not quite sure. There was some significant about some kind of tree. Sure what it was. This was Republican Women fashion show. She looks like Jackie O. She's the one sitting down there in the middle, isn't she? Yeah. Yeah. Again, 60s. Then, because we keep having relatives, they decide to add on. So there's my Uncle Bill and my Aunt Virginia. That's right in front of our house. Dad designs the addition to the home. So we added on a huge family room, another bedroom, and another bathroom, taking out part of the backyard area. Again, people keep visiting with from someplace, and David and I are growing. So we need our own space now. More parties, always the party place. This was Navy League. Again, getting all dressed up. You see Dean Green there in the background, and Ray Pruder, and I'm quite sure, I'm sure it's squint to read that one in the back. And Templeman, they're going over budgets for the school board. And this one is Lions Club. So during this time, Dad was always kind of covered in the background. He was a member of the Planning Commission for a while, but Lions Club was his thing, was pancake breakfast. And we would do the caravans to Indian reservations, Native American reservations, where we would collect things, and we did that several times too. So I need to throw Dad in here, even though you don't see his picture. But Mom always tried to make sure as best she could that Dad was also in the picture. But Dad felt a little lonely, so Dad went and bought a Fiat. And David will remember this part. You remember the Fiat. So I had to put this in here. There's Dad and there's David in the thing. I think that the Fiat lasted for a day, a month, 6 months. Mom refused to sit in it because it was a 2-seater. And but I had to put that in there. I think Dad was, Mom was doing all these different things. And so, but I thought, this day we get a chuckle out of the
He built that engine himself.
Did you?
No, your dad.
Oh, my dad built that engine
Yeah, he
himself?
built the engine.
Oh, see, I didn't even know
He let
that.
us drive it the day after he finished rebuilding.
Oh, and then he got rid of it.
Jan and I, in the evening, beautiful warm evening, we got to drive over Santa Barbara.
Well, and then it went. So, because you cannot put a family in a Fiat. So that was Dad's little wild thing that he got to do, and then it was gone. So, astrology. If you know Mom for her astrology, she really got into it, and it wasn't. I don't want to say this. Some people think, "Ooh, astrology, the mumbo jumbo." That wasn't Mom. Mom was because of the math. And Mom, I don't think the Bennetts made it. It was because it took so much. It was all the math involved with it. And so Mom, and that's Betty Bennett, who passed away a few years ago. I was hoping her husband was going to be here and daughter. But you'll see, and she started teaching it at the rec, and she gave talks on it. But she really enjoyed that. And this was, they were looking for parking spaces here for Harbor Days. So Mom's doing the school board and astrology and AEW and Republican Women, and everything's going on. And she and Dad still made time for themselves as much as they could, because she had 2 little ones still at home. And this was her at one of the elementary schools that was very important for her. Every time there was a Dr. Seuss read-a-thon, every time something was going on, Mom made it a point to go to every single elementary school and junior high as much as she could. Any single time she was invited, she went. And she was always doing diplomas at either E.O. Green or Blackstock, and if she could do both, she would do both. In fact, I think she'd boot off the other board members if she could. That was so important to her. In fact, she gave David and I both our diplomas. I was so embarrassed. I don't know about that. It was the last thing I ever wanted. I don't even know if I have a picture of it. I probably destroyed them at the time. Now I think, well, that was dumb. But during this time, this would have been the late 60s, probably late 60s or so, they took the time to take us to Europe. Now, this was the engineering bust. So Dad had been working at the wind tunnel. It was about 68 or so. And they saved this. Now, see, Mom wasn't making an income. Dad was the wage earner. But Mom was doing all this volunteer work. She was starting to do a little bit of money with astrology. I don't think she was getting a stipend with the school board. If so, it was tiny. I don't think they got a stipend back then. I don't think there was anything. She saved and saved and saved because she wanted us to see the world. She always wanted us to see things. And Dad got laid off. And he said, we shouldn't go. And she said, we're going. She didn't pay for it. I mean, she saved. So you can't really see us, but we're headed onto the bus. These poor people. We were the only kids on this tour. David was 8, 7. Oh my gosh, we were horrible. I think about it now. There is no way I would have taken my kids on a tour. But we did. We had a wonderful time. You can actually kind of see us. David's in the gold. My mom's back there in the blue. Go ahead. Mom comes back. This is another 3 or 4 page article that we have on Mom. She's really busy doing things. This is Easter seals. She gets involved in Easter seals. You ever knew that? Just busy all over the place. No, that was symphony. Sorry. I didn't know she liked the symphony. She's in the Symphony Association. This is Easter seals. And they have time to take us to Europe again. This time they do it on their own. Now Mom said, well, if we took the tour the first time, we can do it on our own. So she buys those, Europe on $2 a day or a penny a day or whatever it is, because they're counting their pennies. So they figure it out, and they don't book hotels ahead of time. We just kind of go to places. They kind of have it figured out. We're going to do Venice. We're going to go to Great Britain. We're going to do these things. In fact, one place, we're over in Great Britain, and you remember this one, don't you? We chuckle. So we go into, there's a lot of bed and breakfast all over the place. So we walk into this one place, we sit down, we're going to have breakfast at somebody's home. They fed us, so those are the kinds of things that Mom would do. On David's birthday, May the 1st, we took the Orient Express over from Venice, somewhere to somewhere, Paris to Venice or whatever. Gypsies are all in the train, and those are the kinds of memories that Mom wanted us to have. The only thing we don't have is pictures of us and the face, because Dad had taken another photography class, great photographer, and he always wanted us in retrospect. So you'll see us way in the background. So I think that's me in the orange, and Mom kind of standing up there, and David's way over there. We have no pictures of us enjoying that trip, but that's okay. We still have the memories. That was a long time ago. But Mom wanted us again to have those memories. She would have loved to have seen us go to the moon. I read one article that she wanted us to take the family on a freighter across the world. Now, I don't know about a freighter, Mom, but she wanted us to have those experiences, and it was nice that she could give them to us, because that was education, to take us to all those different places, because that was always priority. Back to the school board. You probably recognize some of those, right? Templeman, Tipton, and Sereno, right? Business professional women. I don't know if they're even around anymore, but they awarded her. Are they still around? Okay, so they gave her some awards. I think she was written up twice in this one. Lots and lots of different awards. Mom and Dad. Oh, remember the pantsuits? I think they came back in style. Gorgeous. Just they made a handsome couple. Beautiful. Just loved going out, the glamorous type things. And then Eddie came to live with us. Now this is Janice's brother. Eddie was a CB. And he could live off the City base because we were just 2 blocks down, 3 blocks down the road. So Eddie came to live with us. That's Grandma Ida. There's David. Oh, David. We're in Eddie's belt, I think, right? And there's Janice. And this David over here with your little chihuahua. Coco the chihuahua. Eddie lived with us throughout his stint in the Seabees for a couple years, off and on. He'd go back and forth to Vietnam, back and forth. And that was wonderful because Mom always wanted somebody else in the house. It wasn't enough just David and me. Might as well have somebody else in the house, the more the merrier, because again, it's family. Always have somebody there that's so important to her. And why wouldn't you have Eddie live with us when he was just down the street? So we've got lots of fun pictures of Jan and Dave visiting, and I can remember Eddie, he had some girlfriend at one time, learning how to, do you remember the taffy pulling? Yeah, that was a disaster. We had taffy all over the place. You know, taffy has to be just a certain thing, and it got hard as a rock, and yeah. Remember taffy? So there's Elaine and Dwayne with Eddie. It was always great too because the relatives would come visit. Eddie was there. So we had Jan's mom, Doris, would come visit with us also. And then Historical Society, and there's Dorothy in that picture, Dorothy Ramirez. And something Mom was very proud of was she was president of the PTA, Parkview PTA, and a lifetime member. Of all the things that she did, this one was always on her resume. Always. Lifetime member of the Parkview PTA. That's pretty cool. That's pretty nice. Busy time, early 70s. We've got, that's Blackstock, where she's handshaking. That's actually my friend Kathy that I haven't seen forever. If you know Kathy Fletcher, I'd love to see her again. Mom and Dad, that's a Navy League type thing. There's Historical Society, that's Dorothy in that picture again. Mom getting some award somewhere. And if that's not enough, we bring an exchange student in from South Africa because we need something else. There's Joan Mary. Yeah, so Joan Mary is the second one in, and Joan Mary Smith is from South Africa. I am a sophomore there at Hueneme, and she lives with us for an entire year, and it was great having her, and we took her all over the western United States. Again, great time to be able to see our country. Mom has a 3-page spread in the paper again, lots and lots of things on Mom, all the different things that she's done. Mom and Dad celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary. And in this one where it talks about Hueneme woman gets ring to replace her quarter, when Dad proposed to Mom, or asked, he had made them rings. Mom's ring, you have your ring on, Mom? You have your ring on? Other hand, David. Is made out of a quarter. My father made them. He's not a jeweler. He wasn't a jewelsmith, but he made his ring out of a 50-cent piece in 1929. 50-cent piece, and Mom's out of a 1927 quarter, the year of their births. And when they got married, he said, "Do you want to go to New York on a honeymoon, or do you want a diamond ring?" And she said, "I'm going to New York." That's Mom. She still has that ring. So for the 25th wedding anniversary, he bought her diamond ring. And she actually lost the diamond out of it about 5 years later, but we had to actually have a cutoff afterwards. But that was her big gift. A huge, huge party at the house. I didn't put all the pictures up there, but the Mirandas were there, and the Greens were there, and the Pruders were there. It was a who's who was at the house. Mom and Dad were honored by the city around this time frame. It was bicentennial. Mom gets more honors. And then Grandma comes to live with us. The other one. So when Grandma comes to live with us, this was about 1978, David? Yeah, because I graduated in 76. So those of you that knew my mom during this time frame, you probably didn't see a lot of her. Mom dropped out of probably just about everything. Grandma needed 24/7 care, dementia, and needed somebody. She would kind of escape through the door. We had to put lots and lots of locks on. Janice and Dave would come into town and relieve my mom for a while. It was a tough time. It was pretty tough. Priorities were family, it's her mom. School board, education, so she kept up with the school board. She kept up with Harbor Days as much as she could, and family. Pretty much everything else probably kind of went to the wayside. We didn't hear a lot about what was going on in her life after that. But again, her mother was absolute priority and lived with us for about a couple of years until Betty, her younger sister, took her back to Minnesota, where she lived for about another year or so until she passed. Elaine and Dwayne hit it again. They start kind of doing some things again together. Mom starts giving more and more talks. This was Oxnard College where she gave a talk. Parades again. They go to Hawaii with Jan and Dave. And in 1986, Mom has a building named after her at the Hueneme School District. And that was a wonderful day. Penny actually pinned the flower on Mom, so Penny is in this picture.
Yeah.
Right here, and there's our family up there. That was a wonderful day. So that was 1986, and I'm hoping the sign still up there. But and then Mom was a huge believer in computers, and so she was very excited when the library got some new computer systems. And then she and her friend Jean are still doing their astrology, and now they're doing a business. They're doing some fun astrology parties and some things. Mom goes, it's not enough to have education. She gets 2 associate's degrees through Oxnard College, and she just loved taking more and more classes. She's named Hueneme's 89 top citizen. She and Dad, during this time, Lisa's born, her first grandchild. They go to Ireland. They go to St. Thomas. They're having a blast. And they are also IRS VITA volunteers. So besides doing all that, they are volunteers to help people do their taxes. Now, Dad starts to get sick during this time. So this was 93, 94. This is 94, actually. And the IRS is out of money. They can't, before they were paying their volunteers like a tiny little stipend, $10 or something. Mom and Dad still are volunteering. Mom actually makes all the copies of everything because the IRS has no money.
Wow.
So this was one of the things that she's doing. She continues on even though Dad's at home. He's not feeling good. And here's a lovely photo of Penny and Mom and Penny's daughter doing Harbor Days, so keep going on. And then this was the summer of 94, and this is when I was expecting Marcus, and Dad gets sick. Right after this picture is taken, Dad becomes bedridden, and Mom stays home and pretty much does nothing but take care of Dad for a year and a half. She still does Harbor Days a little bit, and school board, but that's it. She celebrates her 40th. Dad passes in 96. This was written in 99, I think. And so she's honored for 40 years with the school board, but you'll see there's not too much with anything else in that time. And then culminates at 50 years. But we had a lovely celebration of her with 50 years because school and education and family means everything to her. So we had a lovely celebration. And she's surrounded, yeah.
So William's on the cake.
Yes.
The lighthouse. Your dad did that.
Yes, so the symbol, if you'll see the ship and the lighthouse, my father actually designed that. We didn't ever have it copyrighted or trademarked, but way back when Harbor Days was coming about, they had a contest. And the contest, they didn't like any of the entries. So my dad, he's like, well, what if it looked like this? And he drew it out, and that is what you see. So we actually have, I don't know where the original etchings are. I had them. I have no idea where they're at. I don't know if I have them buried or what happened to them. But yes, so my father, that's his design. So Elaine is surrounded now by her family, just as she gave us love. We give her love back. Again, as I said, it's a very extended family. Her grandchildren, her children, her extended family. But again, it would not have happened if it hadn't been for that man who loved that woman. Thank you very much.
Well, that was wonderful. You can see why we selected Elaine to be the person making a difference here in Hueneme. And there are a lot of people like that in the city of Hueneme. And anyone that has any suggestions, because we may not know of that other person in the city right now, we can solicit your help on that. The next thing is you'll be the first group to know, Tom knows, John knows, that next year, about every 2 months, we're going to have a tour of the Bard Mansion. The Bards have stepped forward to help us on this. We're going to have a docent. And what the requirement will basically be is that you have to come to the museum and view the History of Hueneme DVD that we have. The advantage of that is when you go to the Bard, you'll have an idea of what you're really going to be looking at. And it'll probably looks, by the time we get everything set up, it'll probably be starting the end of March. And we're going to limit the amount of people that can go on. You have to, like I say, come here, and then I will give you a security form that you have to fill out and bring back to me, which then I have to submit to the Navy. So this will open it up to what John and Tom want to do, is have more openness in the community, because there's a lot of things we have here that aren't open to everyone right now. So we're going to open that up. The other thing is we're working on a port tour, and Wilberg stepped forward on that, so we'll be getting you dates of when you'll be able to he'll take you on a port tour. And these will probably end up Will's will probably be on Saturday, and on the tours of the Bard, it's either going to be Friday, Saturday, and possibly a Sunday. Okay, but you'll have these dates well in advance, so I'm just letting you know the museum is stepping forward on that. The whole goal is there are a lot of community groups in the area, so we're trying to, the Friends of the Bard are helping, the Navy League's helping, and different groups like that, so it makes everybody work together for positive things for everybody in the community. The other thing is we'd like to also announce that starting in January, we'll be open the second, third, and fourth Sundays of every month from 12 to 3 o'clock. And the first one that we're going to do, Amy, who's here with her husband Randy, is going to do one on beach class necklace workshop. She's going to show you how to take the beach class and make it into jewelry, and that'll be at 12 o'clock starting on the 8th of January. So we have flyers in the back if you could take them and give them to your friends and make them really aware, because Amy's Miss Personality, and I'm sure this will really be successful. Another one starts on the 14th of January is we have an author coming from Germany that I had contacted a year ago, and this is going to be on German immigration to America from around the 1840s to the 1890s. And this lady has written many books, and she's going to come here and tell us why the Germans came to America so heavily in those years. And
so many of them came right here.
right, and we have the Naumans and people like that. So that's going to be on the 14th. And then we have my friend Frank Nauman, Nauman Road, Nauman Farms. He's going to do talk on the Nauman family. And that should really be enjoyable. So anybody also that has questions about how you grow something around here, you can ask Frank. Now I have to ask Frank, is he going to be growing marijuana now that's so that should be really interesting. And then the last one in January will be on, for example, like those citrus labels that are up right over there. We have a fellow that's coming in that's going to explain, well,
The whole history.
what do they mean? The whole history of the citrus label. So that should be really, really interesting. And so we have speakers for almost we have speakers every month, 2 to 3 a month here at the museum. And so the museum is growing, and thanks to Mayor Tom and Councilman John and Gentleman Jim Hensley and Sylvia and Wilbur, we've got the room to expand the museum and bring the history of Hueneme to the people here, because you'd be amazed that this is actually Bard country. It really is, and you go through this and you can see how Richard Bard and Thomas Bard, particularly Richard, and what he donated. The Channel Islands Harbor never would have happened. If World War II hadn't happened, we'd had our own yachting areas here. We really had the first yachting club in the area, and so there's a tremendous amount of history. It was just some bad luck that happened, and the city council we have now is hopefully going to bring us a lot of good luck in the changes that happen, thanks to Tom and John and the rest of everybody else. Also, I would like to specifically thank people that have helped me, because this last year, as the museum has really grown, we've proved that people are interested in the culture of Hueneme. We have Rich Rollins, and Rich has helped make sure that they have the senior Christmas party this year. He stepped forward, he's just a volunteer. We have Eileen, who's been a great help. She's going to be staffing one of the Sundays. We've got Amy and Randy that are helping, and Randy's going to keep us out of legal problems. And we have Beverly Kelly, who helps with flyers, communications, and news media. We have John Adamson, who's a gift to us, because John can identify all the merchants that were down here on Market Street, who was right next to each other, something we've been missing. And we have Perna back there. Perna has his doctorate in chemical engineering, and I keep teasing Perna, is he going to come up with some new strain of marijuana to sell here? We have Joanne, who helps me make sure that I remember to thank all the people that come here. So we sign letters and make sure that they go out. My wife Roberta, and my very helpful friend Kitty. Had it not been for Kitty, a lot of when we had our Veterans Day event, we've gotten veterans pictures in for the veterans wall that's in the museum. She's helped me in Hueneme immensely. I mean, there's 700 and something units there, and she went to every one of them to make sure they had flyers of our events. And I really mean that, Kitty. And we have
Rose.
Rose. Thank you for that. We have Rose Bouge that's here. She's also a volunteer at the museum.
And a commissioner.
And a commissioner. And I think I have mentioned everybody, specifically the city council guys. And then we've got, I'd like to again mention Penny Walcott on 101.
Can we sing?
Yeah, all right.
Let's sing.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Penny. Happy birthday to you. And now I'll ask Beverly to step forward. We have some things for passing happy. We do need help here, with printing the flyers, supplies, rehabbing the place, polishing the floors. If you go through, I have an immense list of things that we're getting down to doing. Well, you know, we're trying not to be an anchor on the city. So it's up to you to help us succeed in what we do. We've had some donors step through. I've been in various other clubs going out and asking so that we can